สวัสดีค่ะ Hello again, Science 100. Thank you so much for all the questions you submitted to me. Unfortunately, I will not be able to answer all of them, but I pick a few and I'm going to answer right now. Let's start with questions from Dawn's class. I've got a question from Katie who asked, are there any other factors contributing to the endangerment of this species? For the manta ray, of course, they have the natural predator, which are the bigger sharks, but that doesn't really affect the population size as much as the cost by human. For by human, there's been three major factors. So the first one is bycatch, second one is manta fisheries, and the last one is ecotourism. Next question is by Andrea, who asks what kind of actions were needed to put the mantas on the protected species list in Thailand that we could apply to endangered species here. First of all, when you are trying to protect something, when you're working with the government, you need the supporting evidence which come from the database. So the first and foremost start, gather the data, especially if you're working with the species that are becoming endangered. You're kind of fighting with the time. So the earlier that you can gather the data, the better that you would have the supporting evidence to most likely get these species protected. Next is from Tanya. How much information can be gathered from just pictures that have been submitted by other people around the world? I would say a lot, okay? Especially when you work with migratory species, they go everywhere. So we cannot be in different places at the same time. Having different people in different location helps a lot. You never know what your picture could mean to the researcher. That information could be the missing piece of the puzzle that we are looking for, that we need to get the species protected. So having citizen scientists all over the world help a lot in the research world. Next one is from Danielle. Now that manta ray's population in Thailand is protected, what are the next steps? The next step for me would be to protect the habitat, because we can't only protect the animal and then knowing that where they're living or where they're hanging out is in danger or under threat from especially fisheries in Thailand. So the next one is we are going to try to get those dive sites protected and regulated. Also the effect from ecotourism, from the divers and snorkelers. It has to be sustainable. Otherwise, once you stress the animal out too much, they're never going to show up again. They're going to go in other places. So we need them in our water to sustain our economy. So protect the area would be my next move for my mentor project, and continue to do our research because there's still so much we don't know about this population. Another one is, how were manta rays related to Chinese medicine? A very good question. There's no relation to Chinese medicine. So the researcher has been looking into the traditional Chinese medicine book, and there is no manta gill in that recipe at all. We think it's a new scheme from the traditional Chinese medicine market to make more money out of endangered species, possibly because the declined population of sharks all over the world. So the number of shark fins are basically reducing, and they probably gonna need something to replace that. So they go for the manta rays, unfortunately. But I can tell you that there's no benefit that's proven that manta gills could do to your body whatsoever. If anything, I think it would harm your body because of the amount of the mercury and toxic that these guys are absorbing through their food. Next question I got from Issy. Do you ever think about expanding the organization to another location? Definitely. Mantas are migratory species, so the more area that we can cover, the better we can understand them. We are suspecting that our population could be the same one as our neighboring country, Burma. So I'm planning to expand the project into Burma waters as well. Next question is from Stephanie. Since becoming manager in Thailand, have you had the opportunity to travel to different waters and study the mantas with other organizations and collaborators? I personally have not got a chance to travel to the different waters just yet to study the same population because of the time limitation. But luckily, next year I already have the expedition booked to travel to Burma again to study the manta population and see the condition over there. Do manta rays appear seasonally? Yes, they're migratory species, which means their life is basically following food, mating, going somewhere to clean, which is why we happen to see them because we have the cleaning station, or in some places it's a feeding ground, so you will seasonally see them. Next question is from Oliver. How do you take pictures of manta ray spots without scuba license? You don't really need to have scuba license to take manta picture as long as you go to the right place. For some places like the Maldives, it's a feeding ground. Therefore, you will be able to see the manta rays feeding, and when they come and feeding, they follow the plankton. The plankton either come to the surface or sink down to the bottom. So when they come to the surface, you can basically snorkeling with them, and that way you can dive down just a little bit, free diving down, and then take a ID shots. And that's what I did when I was doing my research in the Maldives. We didn't even scuba, we mostly free dive. Oliver also asked, how highly is citizen scientist data taken in formal research projects? For example, in the Maldives, we have the database of over 4,000 individuals, and not all of them are from our researchers. Most of them are also from the citizen scientists that has been submitted. Those ones have been diving, snorkeling in the Maldives. So a lot could be contributed from citizen scientists. Next question is from Jasmine asking, were you afraid of not being or having what it takes to start a mentor project yourself? This is a very good question, and the answer is definitely. I really felt that I didn't have what it take. When I started the project, I didn't have the background in marine biology or research of any kind, but I did not let that stop me. I stood for what I believe, and that was my love for the manta rays, and I wanted to see them protected. There is this one thing that Guy Stevens, the founder of Manta Trust, told me. He said, knowledge can be learned by anybody, but passion, that's something that you can't learn from anywhere else. It has to come from the heart of the individual itself. So that's basically pushing me to do what I do now. And I don't just stop there, of course. I realized that this is my passion. I realized that this is what interests me. And I further my study into the marine biology. I have a marine biology diploma. So wherever your passion is, just follow it and follow it through all the way. Don't let anything stop you from doing what you love doing, especially if it is for a good cause. Okay? Next, I would like to answer questions from Jilly's class. The first one asks, how do you know what research questions you want to ask about an animal? First of all, we start with the basic. We need to know about the individuals, how many they are, and establish a database. So that's the main thing that people usually go for. And after that, the more information you start learning or getting about these population, it opens up many doors, and it opens up a Pandora box of other questions that are coming, and you should usually move on from there, or you would see what action is urgently needed for this population to keep them safe and start from there. Next question is, how long have you tracked manta rays using their unique markings? This method has basically been used for as long as we starting to find out that manta rays can be identified by their unique spot pattern. So this is over a decade that we have been using this method. Next question, when you are collecting data, what do you pay attention to the most? For Thailand Manta Project, we are at a very early stage of our research. So my priority right now is to establish a database and knowing the individuals and how many there are in our waters. So I would pay most attention to identifying the mantas at the moment. But while I'm there, I make the most out of it, and try to gather the information about the ecology and the environment factors around the area, whether we see them or not, because that always come in handy in the future. Next, how can animal species be better protected from the public? What can we advocate for to limit human interaction and interruption? Very good question, because for manta rays, they do attract a lot of tourism, and then humans starting to become an impact to this population. So what we need to do is educate and spread awareness as much as we can. Like I mentioned before, I believe that people would choose to do the right thing. People want to go and see them, and most people definitely do not want to disturb them, as long as they know what they should or should not be doing when you have these interactions. So education, education, education. And always for yourself as an individual, remember to respect, okay? Respect the environment, respect the animal, respect everything that is around. And remember to create minimum impact and cause minimum stress to the surrounding area, as well as the animals themselves. And yeah, the outcome could surprise you, and you have once in a lifetime experience and memory that you will never ever forget. Next question is related to climate change. Are changing ocean temperature affecting manta ray populations? For climate change, so far, climate change has not directly affecting the manta. But remember that the manta's food is the plankton. And the plankton is basically at the base of the food chain, and they are very sensitive to climate change or the changing in the ocean. So when the plankton is affected by the climate change, not only the mantas are going to be affected, because almost all lives in the oceans are depending on the plankton, the zooplankton, the phytoplankton as well. Basically, if the climate continues to change the way it does, we are going to have a big problem, and not only with the manta rays. Next, about citizen science. Next question. What are ways to educate the public about conservation of a species or get news coverage? Definitely don't try to write a mantis to get new coverage. And there are many ways, basically, but right now, we can't deny that social media has played a big part in our lives. It is a great way to spread awareness, share information, and educate the public. So why don't use that for a great cause? Many of the projects are using social media to keep their project updated and being visible to the public as well. So social media has played an important role in the many researches around the world nowadays. Which lead me to the next question. How do you get people interested and more aware of your project or cause? We do use social media, so we have our Facebook and Instagram page. You can go check it out. It's Thailand Manta Project. And that's the way we can reach out to the public, as well as we join many exhibitions, and that way it's a more personal interaction in terms of education and creating awareness. Next questions are more about my personal information. First one is, what is your post-high school education story? I went straight to university, like most people do in Thailand, because that's the way it should be. But I did not know what I wanted to do. I did not know where my passion was. I was only 17 at the time. So I chose something that it would be easy for me to graduate, which was a big, big mistake. Luckily, I realized that, and I asked my mother to take some time off to find out what I really want to do with my life, where my passion really is. And it took me a long time, but I finally figured out that my passion is the ocean. Then I chose to further my study in marine biology and did a marine biology diploma with Oxford College. And in the future, I'm definitely looking forward to learning and educate myself more and more about our ocean. And we've come to the last question for this session, which is, how can you find out if the fish you are eating comes from a sustainable source? First is ask. Simply ask. Ask the seller, ask the restaurant, do you know where your food come from, where your seafood come from? It's as simple as that. To develop the habit of start asking question, once the producer realizing that, hey, there is a demand from the consumer, they would like to know where the seafood is coming from, they also will start asking question and asking the supplier how did they get their seafood. It is coming from the sustainable source. If we make it clear that we demand sustainable seafood, then the producer will start to react accordingly. Don't forget that we have the power with every single dollar we are spending every day. That is basically your voice to vote for what should be supported or what you don't want to support anymore. So don't forget that you have that power as a consumer and everyone can make a difference. Those are my answers to the question you've asked me. Sorry again that I cannot answer every single one of them. We are quite limited on time, but I hope it helped clear things up for you. If you have any question at all, please don't be shy. Shoot me an email and I will answer as soon as I can because I love doing this and I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to talk to you all the way from across the world. Thanks to Lonnie, thanks to Humboldt State University, and thank you Science 100 for having me once again. I hope I will get to share my knowledge and my experience with you in the next occasion. Have a great day and see you soon. Bye bye.